So although the path to getting a software engineering job is different for everybody, in this video I wanted to explain what I did step by step in order to get my first job. Here we go. The first thing is I extensively went through the coding websites after I learned what I really wanted to focus on. So I started at Code Academy and I went through the JavaScript course to learn the basics and just to get familiar with the language. After Code Academy, I actually paid for a resource because I wanted to get a little bit deeper into JavaScript at Team Treehouse. But as I paid for that membership, I started to feel that it was just a little bit too confusing. If anybody has used that website before, you know everything is project based and you kind of have a syllabus to go along with what the instructor is teaching. But it got to be really confusing to follow the courses because sometimes the video course wouldn't necessarily match with what the syllabus explained. At this point, I started to grow a bit frustrated because I was building projects step by step, but I didn't feel like I was learning anything. I would follow along and do everything as the instructor would say, and at the end I had a great project, but when I would think back as to what I learned and could I do something similar on my own, I had no idea. Either way, each project that I built, whether it be through a tutorial or not, I still saved it to be able to upload later to my website. And then one day I ran across Free Code Camp. Free Code Camp was like the best step after Code Academy. I was actually learning more because of how Free Code Camp is set up with its different challenges. They give you just enough of a challenge, but not too much of somebody just holding your hand like I had on Team Treehouse. Even to this day, I still go back to Free Code Camp to refresh on new concepts, to remind myself about things that I haven't used in a while, that I have to use currently in my job, and just to see what's new. So if you ask my opinion on just one website to choose to start learning how to code on your own, it would definitely be Free Code Camp. The second thing I did was I created my own website and a GitHub account. Now, by no means was this website fancy or even really pretty. And when I think about it now, it was actually pretty ugly, but it was functional. And that's really the main thing that you're looking for when you're trying to build your first website as your portfolio. When you're starting out, interviewers and companies know that you're a beginner, so they're not expecting the most dynamic or the most beautiful website. Unless you're interviewing for some kind of UX position, then of course you want to have the nicest website that you can. But they want to just see that you're learning and that you're motivated to get into the field. So I paid for some cheap hosting at Free Hostia, and back then I had to pay a small fee for the year for them to host my website. But I believe even now, I think you get a year for free to start with the basic website, which is all you need. So once I had my hosting set up with my domain name, which was my actual name, I created my website using HTML Bootstrap. I like Bootstrap because it's easy to get a website up and running relatively quickly without having to know everything about HTML. Once you find some kind of template or tutorial, then it's up to you how you want to change your colors or if you want to change something else, because it's pretty easy once you have that type of framework in place. Then you can get into the details to change things to how you like it. Bootstrap now charges for complete themes, like kind of like how you would see on something like Shopify. So if you have the extra money and you just want to get the website up and running a little bit quicker, then you can obviously pay for a theme to where everything is pre-packaged and all you have to do is upload it. My whole point to this is, unless you want to focus on HTML and CSS, try your best not to spend too much time on the design part of building your website, because all we really want is a place to upload our projects to show potential employers. So once I had my website, I started uploading my projects to my website. And this was very simple. I had a home page, I had a project page, and I had an about me page that basically was like my resume, giving my background, some personal information, and just my overall motivation as to why I wanted to get into software development. And I had a contact page which listed my email and my phone number. I also created a GitHub account and I uploaded my project files to my GitHub account. This will really set you apart because it shows that you're serious and you're taking consideration into what interviewers are looking for. So by having your project in both places on your website and your GitHub account, you look way more prepared than most people would. What I did next is I edited my resume to fit more to a technical background. This part is very important because when you don't have any professional experience, you have to edit your resume in the best way that you can to grab the attention of employers. So for example, if the position that you're applying for is for JavaScript or Python, then you want to make sure that you upload these same type of projects to your website and edit your resume to include these words in your resume. So for me, for example, I put a section that was called side projects at the bottom of my resume. I gave the name of the project, I described what it was, and the languages that I use. If you don't put these keywords, you won't get really far when you start applying to jobs. A lot of companies may use a system, or they may have somebody that's quickly scanning through resumes and they're looking for keywords. The GitHub account is very key. I've had a few interviews to where I was really surprised when I went in and the interviewer told me that they went through my GitHub account, they looked at the code that I had, and they had some questions about it, or they wanted me to explain certain things. When you give your website, they can obviously go to the website and see the functionality of the projects that you built, but it's very hard to see the code behind it unless you upload these projects to your GitHub. After this, I started to apply to many junior and entry-level roles. Honestly, I didn't really have a real strategy to applying. Well, yeah, I did. It was really just applying to as many jobs as I possibly could. I looked at it almost like fishing. I wanted to throw my bait out as many times as I could to see which company would bite and give me a chance for an interview. It wasn't necessarily to get a job immediately. My goal was to get as many interviews as I could. So every day I would look and see if there were new job postings and to apply to them if it matched something that I was interested in and the languages that I wanted to work in. Since I was new to technical interviews, I wanted to get as many as I could so I could see the process and to see what to expect as I move further along with these companies. Some interviews were more difficult than others, some were more technical than others, and believe it or not, some weren't really technical at all because the formats varied a lot. You may have some interviews to where it's all technical and your first step may be a pretty tough code challenge versus another company to where they ask more behavioral questions and they may ask you technical questions, but you may not have to do a code challenge at all. So it kind of depends on the company and what their process is. But either way, you want to get as many interviews as you can so you can be ready for any type of interview. So the more interviews that you go on, you'll start to notice a pattern of the type of questions that people ask you. There'll be questions related specifically to your language and anything related, more around object-oriented programming also, and concepts related to that. I applied for roughly 3 months and interviewed for roughly 3 months before I actually got my first offer. And that job obviously was not the best thing for me, and I'll link that video below about my first job experience and how bad that was. But everybody's path is different. Somebody may apply for 2 months and get a job while somebody may take a year. Everybody's different, so try your best not to compare your outcome to somebody else. I would see people around me get jobs a lot quicker than I did, but the thing that helped me was just trying to stay motivated and letting that show when I actually had an interview with somebody. A lot of companies would much rather have somebody that's motivated and they have passion about their job, even if they don't have a degree, versus somebody that may have a degree, but they're lazy, they don't show much emotion about what they're doing. Because as I said before, you can always learn the technical sides of things. So show your personality, be proud of the things that you did, be excited about the things that you did, even if you're not 100% done with them. Just any type of progress, just make it clear to the interviewer. So although I can't promise how long it'll take you to get your first job, if you do these tips that I mentioned in this video, it will set you way ahead compared to everybody else. So that's what I have for you. If you like the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this.